the massive rise in popularity of the UFC and boxing and these TikTok and YouTubers and all these guys getting into combat sports. And I don't know, do you watch that stuff? Do you watch like UFC and boxing and things like that?
I watched that YouTuber and TikToker boxing event, and then I started watching some of the UFC. I'm not like a diehard UFC fan
Yeah,
or boxing, but like if it's on, I'll definitely watch it. But I
right.
don't, yeah.
And I don't know about you, but like when you do watch it, and I don't watch that much either, but when you do watch it, like I don't know about you, but I get like really into it. It feels like I'm watching like a gladiator event. Like I just want to like see someone get like dropped. I don't know if you get that way too, but that kind of feeling, I just want to kind of explore a little bit. Like, is it wrong for us as Christians to watch these combat sports, like guys like literally just beating each other up, right, bleeding and breaking legs and things like that? Um, or is it okay? Like, these guys are all professionals, they're pros, you know, they're signed up to do this, they train, they respect each other, and they're just beating each other up.
Uh, I mean, so I'll give you my perspective because when I'll watch it just because I know the event's like highly popularized and everyone's tuning in and these big names are fighting. And when I watch these events, I always feel bad intrinsically. I don't know why. When I see the other person get hit, or like especially in the UFC when someone's down and then you just see them pounding them and they're pounding them in the face and they're bleeding. Like I can't watch that and feel like, yeah, like let's go. Like it just makes me feel the opposite,
You feel
you know?
bad? Like you actually feel bad?
And I can't explain. I actually feel weird, like something's wrong. And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
takes me back to when I'm like in middle school and there's a fight that breaks out between two people and
Mm-hmm.
I look around and everyone else is like hyping it up and they're all like clapping like, yeah, let's go. And I'm like, how can any human being watch this and like just be okay with somebody getting hurt or like getting socked in the face and you're motivating them to hit the other person and do all these things. Now it's different in boxing because they make a lot of money, right? They train for this. This is a sport. But like, if we're gonna be honest, like I don't know how to give my stance because I don't know what the right answer is. I don't want to just give it. I'm pretty sure Christ wouldn't have envisioned us like boxing and like him partaking in it. Um,
You
but
don't think like Christ would have been like watching like the gladiator stuff in Rome?
no, probably
So
not.
all right, so let's make a distinction because it seemed like you get like upset at the point where like the guy's like he's down and he's just like just piling on, right? But what about all
Hmm.
the stuff before, right? Like are you bothered by like, a jab, a push, a tackle? Or is it just the fact that all right, now this guy's like you might actually hurt him permanently.
So that's a good distinction because I appreciate the craft and the skill. So I can watch someone and the way they jab back and forth, they hit or they sock or they block a punch or a hit, and like that's cool to see because that's skill. It's not easy to do that, but especially when someone's like defenseless and I just see them keep getting pounded and pounded. That really makes me angry.
But you
Like not
see,
angry, that's not the right word.
yeah.
It makes me uneasy, but it's not until after the fight when I see them like touch gloves or they hug each other or they say like, "Yo, it's all love." Like I love that, especially from the person who wins or was doing the beating. Like when I see that, it makes me like really respect it more than I would if it was just like a normal fight. So yeah, that's a good point that you just made.
And I think why they do that, the like the piling on and stuff after they get them down is I think they actually like literally have to because they need the ref to come in there and like call the fight for them.
Yeah,
I think like in the UFC you have to even in like boxing there's there's a count, but I don't think he can just let him like recover. I
no,
think
you're
like
right,
they
and
they
I
hope, but here's the thing with fighters though, like the really good ones, the best ones, they go in there, and I think and I've heard this from many fighters interviews, they take pleasure, they take joy in like beating somebody up. And they say if you don't take joy out of that, you're never going to be good at this sport. Is that a problem? Does that mean like as a Christian, you can't be a boxer, you can't be like an MMA fighter? I don't know, because I'm on the other hand, like I agree with you. There's like a lot of skill and technique that goes into these things that I appreciate. But they're also, I think, to be good, you kind of have to have that mentality. Like, I need to kill this guy.
You're giving the perfect example of Mike Tyson. If you've
Hmm.
listened to Mike Tyson speak about his fighting days and the type of person that he was and had to like convince himself to be when he was fighting, and who he is now is like a completely different person. Like Mike Tyson doesn't associate with the Mike Tyson that was like the best fighter in the world and beating people up, because he says like he was an animal and he wanted to like he had to like want to kill the other person, and that was his mentality, and he was just always like it was insane when you listen to him speak.
Yeah.
And I think most people, like, that's not healthy, and he's really happy with where he is in life right now. He's like he sounds like one of the nicest guys, and he's just really cool and down to earth, at least in like the podcast that I listen to him speaking. But yeah, that's definitely a problem, like
But
wanting
but
to
he,
kill the other person.
but he never would have become the best in the world, I think, if he didn't have that mentality.
Yeah, but
So,
if if being the best in the world like was enough for him, then by doing that he would have been satisfied. You know what I mean? But he wasn't satisfied. Like his life wasn't satisfying. So all these players, even I look at MJ, who people consider the greatest in basketball, and just looking at his face, he doesn't look like he's like super satisfied. Like I know he has money and all these things, but
yeah.
just having all this glory and having like the number one status and all these things, I feel like it's for a certain period of time before like that just kind of dwindles away and you go back to craving something else and wanting more. And for some people, they need to get to that place to realize that it doesn't satisfy them, or not as much as they thought it would, or it's not as long lasting, but it's not going to be there forever, you know? I mean, that's my opinion
Okay, yeah,
personally.
yeah, all right. So, but there are actual like devout Christian guys who are in these sports, and when they win a fight, they thank God and they give God the glory, right? If we're gonna say that, it's an unchristian activity, you shouldn't be like beating somebody up. Are they like, did God actually play a role in in them having the strength? Is that just something they say? Is that just something, and this applies to athletes across the board, right? But I just want to focus on the combat sports right now.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I always appreciate an athlete who gives God glory, but is it wrong if it's like a combat sport?
Well, just first things first, if someone is a Christian in a combat sport, I'm not saying they're like not Christian. Like I'm not
Hmm.
judging or
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
anything
yeah.
about their faith. The act itself, hurting another person, like from a fundamental perspective, like that is not Christian, right? But even in the Old Testament, like war, like there's things that God doesn't force on us, but He allowed to happen. And like Israel, like they were a tribe, they had to go to war against other nations and stuff like that. And God was a part of that in a sense, and He allowed that to happen. So it's not like you're automatically cursed, or if someone's in the military, right? Doesn't mean they're not Christian because they have to be in the military. If you're in a combat sport and this is what you do for a living, in a sense, like it's what you do for a living, right? You're gonna get paid. You have to do it to do this. You want to be good at what you do. But if someone gives God the glory, maybe the person who lost gave God the glory too. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And he doesn't say that out loud, or like even if the person's a Christian and they lost, you give God the glory. So I don't think it matters if you win or lose if you're a Christian in that sport. Like it's easy to give God the glory once you win and all this stuff, but if you lose and you're on a big stage, it's like, you know what, I lost, but it is what it is. I'm still thankful. I'm still a Christian. I'm still alive. I got to fight and compete, and I'm thankful. So And the thing is, it's so attractive to be Christian and to win something like that and to say it on a microphone in front of a lot of people, like, I just want to thank God, you know, because there's a sense of like when you say that, you know, there's going to be criticism from people who aren't religious, people who are more
Mm-hmm.
secular, people who are like, bro, you just trained so hard for this fight and this sport, and you're going to give God the glory. And there's a sense of like, yeah, I want to say that because I know there's this opposition that comes to it, and I want to put God's name on top, which is good. But it's also like, in any perspective, the way you conduct yourself is how you give God the glory. You know, when you dab your teammate up after, or the
Mm-hmm.
opponent, the way you train, how serious you are, what you do off the MMA fighting mats or whatever, and all that stuff. But that's cool because I love to see that too. And I'm an advocate of people when they always like give God the glory. Like I look for quotes like that sometimes. Like, oh, say something
Yeah,
about
yeah.
God. Let me try to.
Actually, I actually used to save those when I saw them on Instagram.